And shortly thereafter, Fallon will be gone. These are people with absolutely no talent who are paid millions of dollars for, in all cases, destroying what used to be great television. It's really good to see them go, and I hope I played a major part in it. Oh, you delicate, chubby little teacup. Did we hurt your feelings? You want us to be canceled because we make jokes about you? I thought you were against cancel culture. I thought that was like their whole thing. When did you become so woke?
The irony is more scathing than a poorly executed late-night punchline. Jimmy Kimmel's program is canceled, but rather than, he retreats and attacks the man whose political carnival has been the source of comic gold for almost 10 years. The president is Donald Trump. Kimmel uses the cancellation that was intended to silence him as a microphone. Additionally, every jab he hurls lands like a powerful blow. Kimmel recently shown that the roast doesn't require a stage, in case Trump had assumed he would avoid the late-night limelight. All it needs is a target.
I don't necessarily feel like I'm defending democracy, but I do feel like I'm giving this guy a little poke, and he deserves it, and I enjoy it, and I love that people enjoy it too.
Jimmy Kimmel doesn't keep quiet about his grief. He loads again. The announcement of his show's cancellation might have served as the catalyst for a silent departure, a courteous bow, and an expression of gratitude in the press statement. Kimmel, on the other hand, viewed it as free ammo directed against the one man who is sensitive to mockery. Trump became the clown managing the fallout, and the cancellation turned into a prop. It is poetry in a sense. Kimmel loses airtime, but globally, Trump loses his dignity.
Impossible. You can't turn him off. He won't power down. He's like Ultron. He just keeps going. Every day, it's something crazier than the next. I made a list. This is all in the last 2 months. I made you a quick list. I will run through it. He paved over the Rose Garden. He's building a golden ballroom at the White House. He's planning a UFC fight at the White House. He cut off Kamala Harris's Secret Service protection. He named himself host of the Kennedy Center honors. He went to Alaska to bend over for Putin. He sent military tanks into Washington, D.C. He said the Smithsonian focuses too much on how bad slavery.
The timing of this hit is what makes it so vicious. Kimmel's most scathing set yet suddenly targets Trump, who is prancing around as like every headline is a coronation. Just unadulterated fire directed at a president who feels that admiration is constitutional. No audience, no cards, no network polish. Trump is left stumbling like a reality TV star who has suddenly remembered the cameras are still rolling after the meltdown, which is the comedic equivalent of ripping someone's rug out from under them during their victory dance.
This morning, Trump warmed up for his date with the British press by yelling at a reporter from Australia who dared to ask about the billions of dollars he's been raking in since the election.
President Trump said a president in office should be engaged in so much business activity.
Well, I'm really not. My kids are running the business. I'm here. You know what the activity, where are you from?
I'm from the Australian Broadcasting Corporation, Four Corners Program.
Well, the Australians, you're hurting Australia, right? In my opinion, you are hurting Australia very.
Kimmel focuses on how ironic Trump's public persona is. This man became the target of every branding catastrophe in contemporary politics after using branding to build his empire and putting his name on buildings, stakes, and failed universities. Kimmel notes that even though his own program is no longer in existence, the legacy is still intact. On the other side, Trump's record is permanently marked by impeachments, litigation, and speeches that resemble the longest blooper reel in history.
You're against cancel culture. I thought that was like their whole thing. When did you become so woke? Unfortunately for Frosty the Snowflake, the only place we are going is to New York. Once again, we are packing up our Hailey Bieber smoothies and headed to Brooklyn for a week of shows at BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, starting September 29th. October 3rd. And one of our guests that week, we have great guests lined up, will be my good friend Stephen Colbert. We have a lot to talk about.
There is more to the roast than that. It cuts right through Trump's fixation on ratings. Numbers are one of the things that enrage Trump the most, especially when they don't go his way. Kimmel reveals the fragile ego concealed beneath his baggy suit jacket by pointing out how a canceled performance still managed to outtrend Trump's rallies. consider the embarrassment. Even without a platform, a late-night presenter nevertheless attracts more attention than a sitting president attempting to lead the country. It's similar like losing a mime shouting match.
に傷つけており、彼らは私と仲良くしたいと思っている。ほら、あなたたちのリーダーがもうすぐ私に会いに来る。私は彼にあなたのことを話すつもりだ。あなたは非常に悪い口調で言った。どうぞジョン。彼はなんて告げ口屋なんだ。つまり、彼の首相に彼のことを話すつもりだ。私は彼に、あなたがひどいことを言ったと告げるつもりだ。あなたは大変なことになるだろう。彼は決断を下す必要がある。独裁者になりたいのか、それともただの嫌な奴になりたい。
Then, Kimmel undermines Trump's self-proclaimed image as the people's champion. The inconsistency is obvious. While outsourcing his merchandise to companies abroad, this man envelopes himself in the American flag. Kimmel exposes this hypocrisy by portraying Trump as a profit-driven patriot whose allegiance is limited to the balance sheet. Kimmel knows how to deliver the joke even without a monologue desk. Trump cherishes America in the same manner that a landlord cherishes a tenant's paycheck. It is usually late, commercial, and superficial. The harsh reminder of Trump's never-ending search for approval is another. Kimmel does a great job framing it. The nation's most powerful guy continues to complain, similar to a contestant being kicked off The Bachelor. Whether you're fixated on Trump's desire for acclaim is unquenchable, regardless of the size of the gathering or the retweeting of adulation from Twitter bots using handles like Patriot Eagle 1776. Kimmel uses that need as a weapon, making fun of the fact that Trump continues to behave like a Vegas lounge performer pleading for another encore even when in the White House. Kimmel's comparison of Trump's legacy to the larger entertainment industry, however, is the most scathing. Under Trump, politics has not been government. It has been amazing, a spin-off of a reality show that exaggerates its appeal. Kimmel explains the analogy. Where reality television is thriving, Trump thrives on divisiveness and instability. Trump clings to his grievances, while candidates cling to attention. Additionally, Trump appears committed to extending the series past its expiration date long after the audience has changed the channel, even though every show eventually gets canceled.
There's a rumor making the rounds this weekend that Trump was dead because he hadn't been in front of a camera for a few days. That's how much he's in front of a camera. When we don't see him there, we assume he must be dead. And also he has mysterious bruising on his hand, which they tried to cover up with makeup. And this cover-up's even sloppier than the Epstein one. How could anyone...
The roast explores Trump's shaky relationship with his detractors. Points made by Kimmel discovered that Trump, as if late-night jokes were risks to national security, spends more time criticizing comedians than dealing with crises. This fixation turns into comedy on its own. Consider a president who ought to be in charge of economic policy, but instead enjoys watching angry YouTube monologues at 3 in the morning. Kimmel can convey the insanity without a laugh track. Trump always supplies it himself whenever he loses his temper over jokes. By making fun of Trump's obsession with retaliation, Kimmel also incites anger. It's a violent vision. Trump, the elderly athlete attempting to recall touchdowns, as the others pursued careers, functional vocabularies, and families. The cancellation itself turns as the ideal allegory. Kimmel says that although networks may decide to cancel shows, Trump is likely to face a different kind of cancellation in the past. It has nothing to do with airtime. Legacy is at issue. Kimmel depicts Trump's tale being preserved not in monuments, but rather in court transcripts, comedy reels, and embarrassing moments that are aired repeatedly on all platforms until they become legendary. No spin doctor can change the cancellation.
イギリスにいます。いや、イギリスと呼ばないように注意しなければなりませんが、彼は耐え難いパディントンで、王室との公式訪問のためにイングランドにいます。ティータイムがゴルフと何の関係もないと知ったら彼はとても怒るでしょう。王室メンバーは明日、大統領夫妻を出迎えるとみられるが、賢い英国人らはすでに準備を進めている。レッドカーペットとまでは言わないが、トランプ氏と友人ジェフリー氏のキングコング級の写真だ。
Kimmel then shifts her focus to the issue of credibility. He notes that, although losing credibility is a permanent stain, and losing a show is a setback for your career, Trump's record is replete with paradoxes, ranging from claiming fiscal discipline while the national debt skyrocketed to promising to drain the swamp while surrounded by career lobbyists. Kimmel skillfully exposes the contradiction, portraying Trump as a magician who continues to conjure crises long after the public has seen his trick. Kimmel's comparison of Trump's fixation on fake news with his own cancellation is among the most scathing parts of his piece. Kimmel joked that while Trump's crowd is half made up of bots, at least his show had actual viewers. And clapping sick ants on cue. It's true, which is why it stings. Trump's rallies are more about theatrics than ideas. They are a traveling circus with blind allegiance as the ticket price. Kimmel can make that the joke of the century without a stage. Kimmel's use of visuals is very cutting. He characterizes Trump as a man who is always trying to get applause, but never seems to be able to deliver his words. Every appearance is a live blooper reel. Each policy statement is delivered like a bombastic stand-up routine. It is a national policy that is raised from the comedy of errors. Additionally, Kimmel ensures that the audience never forgets that Trump is more than just a punchline. He is the whole unsuccessful script.
Every day, he is definitely not dead.
How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead?
Now, watch this, because who's the only one smiling in that group? That's right. Good old JD. He hears the words Trump dead, he lights up like a Christmas tree.
The removal also highlights Trump's incapacity to avoid responsibility. Kimmel draws attention to the never-ending stream of inquiries and legal actions that are swarming around Trump like vultures on a carcass. Kimmel reverses the narrative, while Trump portrays himself as the victim of witch hunts. If you continue to draw women, you might be the cauldron. Trump's victimization is reframed as farce, the drama of a guy averse to responsibility, which is why the punchline hurts. The reminder that Trump fears being irrelevant is arguably the cruelest blow. Kimmel observes that Trump is afraid that the spotlight will eventually shift, so he clings to headlines like oxygen. That is Kimmel's favorite irony. Despite the cancellation of his own show, he is still a part of the discussion. Meanwhile, Trump fears that he will one day be forgotten. That is the ultimate punchline for a man who believes that existence is synonymous with attention. Kimmel turns Trump's brand against him in the roast crescendo. The guy who positioned himself as the ultimate negotiator is now known for international lapses, government shutdowns, and unfulfilled pledges that made allies shudder. The mythos surrounding Trump the business people is roasted by Kimmel, who reduces it to a collection of bankrupt casinos and a university fraud that couldn't pass a community college curriculum. Gilded humiliation is all that remains of the empire of gold letters.
トランプは今日、ニューヨークタイムズを訴えた初の大統領となった。彼はニューヨークタイムズを名誉毀損で150億ドルで訴えている。150億ドル。一体どこから彼の名前が出てくるんだ？これは私の子供がお金の話をするときにでっち上げた数字みたいだ。彼はニューヨークタイムズは破綻していると言っていたはずだ。彼はニューヨークタイムズには150億ドルあると思っているのだ。もし彼らがうまくやっていると彼が思っていたら、一体いくら訴訟を起こすだろうか？トランプ氏は今朝、この訴訟を発表した。彼はこう綴った。本日、私は、我が国しか見最悪かつ最も堕落した新聞社の一つであるニューヨークタイムズに対し、150億ドルの名誉毀損及び虚偽記載訴訟を起こすという栄誉に浴しました。タイムズは、皆さんのお気に入りの大統領、私の家業、アメリカ第一運動、マガ、そして我が国全体について、何十年にも。
Kimmel doesn't even have to make anything up. The humor comes from the facts. Trump's. The president is a ready-made parody full of inconsistencies, snap judgments, and mistakes that seem predetermined. Each headline seems to be a spoof. Each press conference is like an unpracticed drill gone bad. Kimmel doesn't embellish the facts. He merely organizes the mayhem into a plot that is more incisive than any television executive's memo. It's not a new idea. It's a plan. Trump's mistakes are arranged in a collage for maximum impact. Consider the incessant paradoxes. Because it's not fiction, the irony is more painful. It's a series of pledges that fall through before being fulfilled. This is followed by the gaffes. Those spontaneous moments that have a greater impact than lectures. A proud president himself on strength, frequently stumbling over geography, fundamental facts, and even his own stories. Kimmel captures those moments, demonstrating how a casual utterance can communicate more truth than 1,000 well-practiced words. Every mistake is included in a blooper reel, which is a continuous commentary on how ill-preparedness can be captured on camera. Exaggeration is not the source of the humor. It originates from witnessing a leader ramble through phrases like a neophyte comedian bombing at open mic night.
The other thing everyone kept asking me about over the summer is if I'm moving to Italy. Because I mentioned on the Sarah Silverman podcast that I got dual citizenship through my mother, who has Italian citizenship. And oh man, the MAGA gang went nuts.
Late night comedian Jimmy Kimmel confirming he has obtained Italian citizenship.
Jimmy Kimmel's so scared he's drafting an escape plan.
We could see Jimmy Kimmel evidently leave sometime soon. He would say ciao.
How is he Italian? There's no way he's Italian.
You know, I didn't realize he was Italian.
I didn't know he was Italian. I'm kind of disappointed.
It's like, okay, Italy's great, but also there's not a lot of air conditioning or ice, so go for it.
Yeah, good luck.
The most painful part of Kimmel's roast is the inadvertent self-parody. Trump frequently acted out the caricatures he had previously attacked, imitating the identical characteristics he had ridiculed in others. He spent hours ranting over comedians' monologues while mocking opponents as weak. Within days, he changed his own opinions while disparaging leaders for being unable to make decisions. By tying these paradoxes together, Kimmel paints a picture of a guy whose greatest foe has always been a reflection of himself. It's a projection collapse cycle. A series of self-inflicted wounds led to comedy. By flipping the script, Kimmel shows how a cancellation enhances a voice rather than silences it. The persistent irony revolves around Trump's fixation on triumphing. He views dominance of the spotlight, headlines, and acclaim as indicators of success. However, his vulnerabilities become more apparent the louder he declares victory. Kimmel draws attention to this contradiction. The man who demands to be viewed as unbeatable is primarily recognized for his brittle outbursts, frantic boasting, and legacy, which is more closely linked to memes than significant events. Comedians find it simpler to transform Trump's yells into jokes the louder they get.
Our nation as a whole, the New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too long, and that stops now. And then he follows it with, this suit is being brought in the great state of Florida. Uh-oh. And will be heard by Judge Dog the Bounty Hunter, my new appointee. Trump is, he won't win this. And the New York Times won't settle. Trump says the Times is run by a bunch of lefties. He claims they're a mouthpiece for the Democrats. And I have to say, I did do today's Wordle, and I don't know if you...
The reason Kimmel's cancellation becomes a badge of pride is because it feeds his roast. He remains the same despite losing a stage. It demonstrates that his humor endures in all media. He can hit Trump without being constrained by time slots, sponsors, or networks because he doesn't have a show. What may have been a setback turns into freedom. The outcome is a more brutal, unvarnished overthrow of a president whose every action is open to mockery. On the other hand, Trump turns into the caricature he cannot avoid. His biggest accomplishment is his capacity to supply comedians with an unlimited supply of material, not policy, negotiation, or reform. Character development is not necessary for Kimmel. Trump provides them. He doesn't make things up. They are Trump's own. The walking parody is really constant in the way that all attempts at seriousness end in humor. Trump makes sure he stays the punchline by attempting to steer the conversation. Trump's humiliation grows as he is unable to withstand this mockery. TV programs come to an end. While networks change, ridicule never goes away. When laughing becomes ingrained in a tradition, it grows rather than diminishes. Trump's story will be remembered with jokes that reverberate through late-night reruns, viral videos, and the very annals of history thanks to Kimmel's roast. The cancellation heightened the one truth that Trump fears most, even though it was intended to silence a critic. His authority could fade, but the mockery never.